Good evening, folks. Happy bat to all of you. This is the Goat Oracle, having finally coerced his other PC into working with my current recording software. And as I was grazing atop the mountain, peering down upon human civilization, I noticed a large number of people with no homes. And I thought today a good rant would be, and again, apologies for the audio. I'll get a better setup as time goes on here. Actually, I'm going to adjust the mic volume slightly here. Um, so, kind of came up today that around my neighborhood, they often we have camps of transient folk, with people with nowhere else to go, and yes, some of them are addicted to certain substances. Sure, so many people out there. Some of them were, uh, they suffer from mental illness, much as many of us do. And so overall, I was thinking I would do a little rant on the homelessness and our housing crisis, among other things. I wanted to touch upon, first of all, people become homeless for numerous reasons. I You will see people instantaneously judging the human condition. I admit that, of course, there are those transient individuals out there that do, in fact, they have issues like the rest of us. Some are worse than others. There's some bad people out there. On the other hand, there are. I've been out there a bit myself, and there are lots of kind, comforting people who care about what happens to whether or not they have addictions or whether or not they have problems. Again, don't we all? And the idea that they're sweeping these people up and castigating them for not having a place to go, it's a really an interesting concept, because I understand that some people don't feel safe, especially if they don't bother to get to know any of these people in question. And there are some, very ill people out there who really could use some help. I you 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 pluck them off the street, okay, wonderful, and very often, sometimes they get placed in shelters, but those are often full, and you do have, it's people get put in jail. I suppose some of them may, appreciate having a roof over their head, but that's no place to be. You sweep them up, you incarcerate them. Maybe some of them get help. I know some go to rehab if that's appropriate or something along those lines. But in the long run, they get punted right back out there, and yeah, and they're right. You know, you tell them it's illegal to sleep on the street, but they're only sleeping there because they have nowhere else to be, nowhere else to go. And more and more of us may face the potential for homelessness, given just macroeconomic factors, and how hard it is to maintain wealth, and what sort of limited stability one has in the general job market. My last video, I ranted about that for a while. Um, and I think there is I'm going to segue into a bit about the like a bigger housing crisis in the U.S. This is all in the U.S. Based out of the U.S. I'm on the um yeah, I'm based in the United States. I'm sure other countries, I know Canada, our brethren up north, also have a bit of a housing issue themselves. I don't know what their homelessness looks like, but it's very hard to. I worked with segue again here. I worked with. I had a coworker who was a salesperson long ago, position, a job I had many jobs ago, and he said that he felt that the housing market really put the consumer on the back foot more than a lot of markets. And one of the major reasons was that we can't compete. It's very difficult to build. Some people are trying it now, don't get me wrong, but it's very difficult to build your own home, to handle all the regulations of most municipalities, most cities. And your inability to compete means you have to deal with landlords, you have to deal with housing associations, you have to pay exorbitant prices for both the building and for the land. Some parts are much cheaper than others. If you live in one of the coasts, you're going to spend a lot more than if you live in the Midwest or something. But just the idea that you can no longer buy a small plot of land for what would amount to a reasonable, you probably still need a loan, and construct your own little home. There are certain places you could pull that off, I suppose, but generally speaking, that's not an option if you live in a large city. You don't really have that option. And the big cities here are where you find most of the homelessness going on, and it's very expensive to keep a roof over your head in the city, and not just that, but they're with some exceptions, they're only the renter or the purchasee is often on a purchaser, excuse me, is often on the back foot. Speaking of being on the back foot, they're often the ones having this issue with securing a home and keeping a roof over their head. So you can't just go build your own. You're at the mercy of whatever the housing market decides to bear. And not only is there a shortage of housing, for people who can afford it, but we even find recently that various landlords, property management companies, various, maybe homeowners, I don't know if private homeowners are doing, there's a lot of price fixing and colluding. I forget the name of the software. There's one particular software service that this platform markets itself as allowing landlords to compare prices so that they have less competition, making it harder for us to price them out, degrading capitalism. It's so-called, the so-called capitalistic way. I don't know I'm forgetting the term now. The idea that in a free market, the competition is what keeps businesses honest, but businesses find ways to not compete all the time, and I think it's failing us overall. And so some of these homeless folk that you might see have lost a home because they just couldn't keep it over their head anymore. A lot of them had a home and just were priced out. It happened to me when I was younger. We got priced out of a sort of, I'll call it priced out. We were living in a very expensive area, and we just could not secure any housing. I was still working. I was even still working, but we ended up in motels, which I guess is an option as well. But for folks not getting nearly enough in the way of benefits, sometimes even a long stay motel is not viable for them, covered in bed bugs too and such things. It just I understand that I understand that people want to walk the streets and not feel like they're in danger, but most of these transient folk that you run into are not dangerous. They're just barely trying to survive. And again, there's no telling when any of us are going to join them. And a little bit of sympathy goes a long way. And we all should be trying to. I mean, I know we should all be living in gumdrop houses, but we should all be making a cursory attempt to provide housing. There was one theory that if you just put a roof over people's heads, they would fight hard to try to keep them. And of course, the narrative is that no, of course, is no, they're not going to. They're just going to fetter their money away on whatever whatever their substances they're abusing, or on they'll party with it or buy avocado toast or whatever and yeah, it boggles me that studies have certain studies have shown that people housed really do get their turn their lives around. There's a logistical issue there as well, of course, but you can't just sweep them up and say, "Hey, you can't be here," because yeah, I mean you can, but where are they going to go? At what point do we say that there's no good answer here, but at what point do we say that I mean, I'm sorry that that homeless person camping out on the corner is bothering you so much, but they really have nowhere else to be. And instead of just being annoyed that they're in your way, you should feel bad that for them. Not you should feel bad. You should all feel bad. You should feel bad for them. You should feel some sympathy for them at least. If you don't want to feel pity for them, but show some sympathy for folks that are just sleeping out in the cold and the heat and the this and the that, the rain or the snow or whatever's coming at them, and having to find food in a land of plenty. They have nothing. A little empathy for your fellow human being would be. I mean, what do I know about it? I'm a goat, but I feel like we have more empathy for each other up here than you humans do in your masses. Not to say I haven't occasionally butted one of my friends off the mountain. We're good climbers. It's all in good fun. So besides, he was eating the lichen I wanted. Nature has its own ways. So um, I guess in closing, there's my rant for the evening. Again, if anybody does see these, eventually you'll probably see these after rather than before, because I don't think my rant videos are going to be popular. If anything I do is popular, but I'll eventually be coming in with I'm doing these rants as a kind of a low barrier to entry to just get myself posting and moving. I'm gonna probably post something more relevant to my field of studies and videos on some current technology stacks. And then, yeah, I'm in the IT ops world, and maybe moving into the data space if I'm lucky someday. I'll post maybe a gameplay video or two. I have an idea for. I play mostly older games. I'm not an elite gamer, but I'm sure those will get more hits than me ranting. But in any case, you know, just yeah, the next time you're strolling down the road, just remember all those transient folk are people like yourself with problems and ups and downs. And they're not just in your way, and always keep your guard up. You never know. Somebody could be out to hurt you, I suppose, but there's no reason to be paranoid just because you know there's nothing to be paranoid of. In other words, most folks are just trying to get along. So, yeah, I will be signing off here. Unsure of what my next topic will be specifically. I was supposed to do a rant on college, which I mean, I only have an associate's degree myself, so I have an interesting take on college, what it did or did not do for me, and why I didn't go further. I guess I'll make that the next subject of my rant. Um, I assure you that goat colleges are very interesting anyway. This will be quite a topic. So, uh, good morning, good afternoon, and good night to anybody who might be hearing this, and happy bah to all of you.